So I'm here in Cambridge exploring the city for a day with this new release. It's the Lumix G90. Now Panasonic has said that this camera is kind of inspired by the GH5 and the G9. It's a hybrid camera that's being aimed at vloggers and also enthusiast shooters. But anyway, let's see what it can do. Now, for anyone wondering, I'll just say quickly that all of the photos I'll take in this video will be with the 12 to 60mm f3.5 to 5.6 standard zoom lens, which is one of the kit options available with the G90. Now gone is the 16 megapixel sensor that was found in the G80. This camera is built around a 20.3 megapixel live mask micro four thirds sensor, the same kind as found in the G9 and the GH5. That increased resolution and increased detail that it's going to produce in its files is going to really enable its users to make large-scale prints and to crop into their shots and still have a nice usable file. The native ISO available from this camera is 200 to 25,600, the same as its forebear, but there's no extended low of 100 as found in the G9. So far, I've only been able to check out the camera's JPEGs, and this has meant that at times, dynamic range has looked a little bit pushed when the sun came out, but otherwise, image quality has appeared really good. Especially in terms of its detail, it's instantly noticeable that this camera is a step up from the G80, which, while expected, is pleasing to observe when zooming into shots on the rear display. In terms of burst shooting, the G90 can do 9 frames per second with its autofocus locked, or 6 with continuous focusing for around 45 RAWs or 90 JPEGs before its buffer fills. For a mid-level camera, that's pretty respectable and should be plenty for its target users' needs, but it doesn't offer any gain over the G80. Of course, it's also got all of Panasonic's 4K photo options for 8 megapixel files at up to 30 frames per second, as well as post-focus and focus stacking options. There's also a live view composite mode, allowing its users to monitor in real time the capture of long exposure composites for things like star trails. Slightly disappointingly though, this camera doesn't have the high resolution shot mode as found on the G9. Now, just like the G80, this camera has a 5-axis in-body stabilization system that can compensate for up to 5 stops of camera shake. So if you find yourself in challenging light conditions and you've got to use a slightly slower shutter speed than you'd really like handheld, this camera is still going to ensure that you get nice, sharp results. It is worth noting though, like I say, it's 5 stops of stabilization, not 6.5 like the slightly more advanced G9. Now, when it comes to the design of this camera, very little has changed from the G80. We've still got a front and rear control dial, we've still got a frame advanced dial and mode dial on the top, but on the back there's now a quick command dial as well, which is going to make actions like scrolling through the images you've taken a much simpler and faster process. Overall, the handling of this camera keeps all of your major settings close to hand, so if you're shooting manual and you want to make quick adjustments on the fly, it's going to be really easy to do with this device. Weighing in at 536 grams including a battery and memory card, it's fairly lightweight. Panasonic say that this makes one-handed use easier for vloggers. The G90 is dust and weather resistant and build quality feels pretty good for a mid-level model. Unchanged from the G80 are the viewfinder and rear display, both more pedestrian than those found in the GH5 and G9 while remaining perfectly usable. The EVF is a 2360K dot OLED with 0.74 times magnification and a maximum 60 frames per second refresh rate, and the rear display is a 1040K dot 3-inch 3-angle touchscreen. This display can be flipped out and turned to face the user for selfies and vlogging, and flipped in on itself to protect the display from damage when not in use. The G90 has one UHS 2 card slot and an inbuilt flash. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are both present for wireless transfer of images and operation of the camera. One nice feature that's gradually becoming more commonplace in the market is the ability to charge the device's battery through a portable charger. So if you're out and about and it starts to go flat, you can connect a portable charger and power it back up to full while grabbing a coffee without having to crawl under tables looking for a spare socket. Battery life is a fair 290 shots, but a much more impressive 1000 shot life is possible with the camera in its power saving mode. Now this camera has a contrast detect autofocus system that will continue to operate down to -4 EV, so even if you find yourself in some tricky light conditions, it's still going to enable you to focus nice and quickly. One thing to be aware of though is that it only offers 49 focus points like the G80, unlike the 225 focus points as offered by the G9 and the GH5. The device does offer subject tracking, which, although I haven't been able to really challenge it today, does seem pretty effective. One thing to be aware of, with a very similar design to the G80, it does lack a focus joystick as found on the G9 and GH5, a feature that I really enjoy using and would have liked to have seen on this camera, but you know, it's not the end of the world. You can still change your focus point quickly using the rear touchscreen. Now Panasonic has said that vloggers are one of its main target consumers for this device. So when it comes to video, what is it packing? Well, it can shoot 4K or Full HD with unlimited record times, and it also has Vlog-Al pre-installed, making it the cheapest Lumix to have this feature straight out of the box. It records 420 8-bit 4K internally at 30 frames per second, up to 100 megabits per second, or can output 422 8-bit to an external recorder over HDMI. Taking a quick look at the footage that I've shot today, its quality looks pretty good. It's not necessarily going to win over people specialising in filmmaking, but for still shooters and amateur videographers, it'll really hit the mark. Full HD footage can also be recorded at up to 120 frames per second, meaning 4 times slow motion is available, while the snap movie functionality will allow its users to create some pretty smooth pull focus effects in camera. Mic and headphone inputs can be found on the side of the device for improved sound capture through an external mic and for audio monitoring. The G80 of course had a mic input but no headphone socket, so it's nice to see that addition be made. But for 60 frames per second 4K and more advanced features, the G9 and GH5 will still remain your best bet. The G90 proves Panasonic's commitment to the Micro Four Thirds mount, which is going to come as great news to all of their users with an existing investment in Micro Four Thirds lenses who might have been a little bit worried after the launch of their 2 full-frame professional models, the S1 and the S1R, over the last few months. It really builds on the success of the G80, adding in a nice new sensor, lots of more advanced video features, and I think if you're a vlogger or an enthusiast photographer looking for your next model, this camera might just be worth a punt. Yeah, I did just crack that joke. For more information about the G90, visit lcgroup.co.uk.